Greetings, listeners at home. It's your sometimes Dungeon Master and channel curator, Garrick. I know those of you following along at home are very invested in our adventures, as well as the characters in the videos we upload every week. In terms of good news, your favorite gaming group has gotten back together to finally play in person again. The bad news is, that means it makes it harder to record. For that reason, I will describe, to the best of my ability, the events that unfolded earlier tonight. Settle in, folks. This session was intense. The group of Republic outcasts find themselves in the infamous Jabba's palace. Elrond agreed to give Crow's lightsaber back, because it was stolen by his men, if the group unearths the rumor that Jabba has a new monster. Upon entering, the group, but Rook specifically, took notice of the all-too-familiar Trandoshan in the corner, Baracus. It is not until Jabba himself asks them to explain themselves does the reptilian man finally notice them. They continue with the ruse and claim to be a bounty hunter, bringing in Elrond alive. With Dabar's negotiations, they earn 7,500 credits and a front-row seat to the special execution the next day. As Elrond is taken away, Rook, Thrakmul, and Cathu all follow him out of the side door, while Dabar takes a less-than-stealthy approach to blending in. While the group barely sneaks or talks their way into the prison cell, Dabar indulges in all of the women and debauchery being a hut like Jabba would entail. Rook turns a corner and runs directly into Baracus. While plotting to kill the crew, Cathu sways his mind with the Force, causing him to walk away non-violently. The party finds not only Elrond in his cell, but Crow, having been brought from the ship. The member of Elrond's crew that stole the lightsaber, Clyde, also ratted out Crow and the rest of the crew. They meet up with them both, and after returning Elrond's weapon, they decide they need to find what is rightfully Crow's. As the party scans the crowd for a specific Zabrak outlaw, Dabar lives the height of hut luxury, buried in a mound of slave girls with drinks served to him on service droid platters. As Rook gathers information about this rumored monster and execution, the other two men, not being swarmed by dancers, find the Zabrak trader with Crow's lightsaber. Rook buys a round of drinks for a man who says his friend Malachi brought in a feared Rancor from Felucia. And of course, with yet another mind trick, Cathu secures the saber. The party regroups, including Dabar, who was previously tail-deep in Twi'leks. Crow cuts free from his cage, and they take a Gamorrean guard as a hostage. Unfortunately, none of them can understand his snorts. Despite having his saber, Crow is missing all of his other equipment. They decide to go to the armory, and then right to the hangar to steal a means of escape. The Gamorrean guard says they need to call a higher-ranking official over the intercom to gain access to the hangar and armory. The only high-ranking official the party dares to contact is old Uncle Baracus. They call him in, and as soon as he enters the door, every gun the party has is pointed right at him. A stalemate is met. Baracus will take them where they want to go without ratting on them, as long as he and Rook have their long-awaited death match. Despite Rook's resistance, the party agrees for him. As they turn to leave, one of Jabba's servants stands wide-eyed in the doorway. A chase breaks out. They all sprint after the servant, hoping to stop him in time. As they gain on him, they end up in the middle of a throne room. Every bounty hunter in Jabba's palace stares at them as the servant implores for Jabba's help. "Kill them," Jabba orders as every gun in the building turns inward. The party knows when they are outgunned and throw their hands in the air, making their way towards the middle of the floor. Jabba laughs and says this normal death will not suffice for this particular group of troublemakers. They are to be digested over 4,000 years in the stomach of a sarlacc. The party exchanges some looks and decides to take their chances. Thrakmul uses the Force to flip a lever next to Jabba's throne, and they fall, descending into the dreaded Rancor pit. Slowly, the black gate rises, and the fearsome leathery-clawed hands make their way out of the shadows. There stands the horrific, snarling beast, intent on killing them all. The group springs into combat. In the blink of an eye, Crow and Thrakmul use their lightsabers past the beast into the next room and begin cutting a way out through a metal doorframe. Elrond, Baracus, and Rook all take turns laying attacks into the creature, and Cathu and Dabar support the team with the Force and a noise-making box, respectively. As the fight ensues, a hole is cut, showing a means of escape. The beast knocks Kathu unconscious, as Rook does the same to it. The clone picks up the fallen party member as he and Dabar join the rest in escaping. A hairy, shirtless man enters through the lightsaber-cut exit and cries over his fallen pet. Thrakmul demands he tell them a way out, and when he does not help, the huge Jedi Padawan has a brush with the dark side, releasing his anger through a punch to the man. The party sprint out one by one, running down long and repetitive corridors. Each room causes them to lose more and more hope. Then, finally, a large sand barge sits unoccupied in a hangar room. The main door is opened as the party makes their way up to the vehicle, tasting the possibility of escape. After surviving Jabba and the Rancor, the party finally see themselves surviving and escaping this horrible backwater planet that is Tatooine. Then they see 12 of Jabba's men on the other side of that hangar door. Despite how fast they attempt to close the door, 4 of the men step through and open fire on the party. Rook returns fire, killing one of them. Then Dabar runs up to the helm, knowing his piloting expertise can and will save the day and all of his friends. When suddenly, all 3 remaining men open fire on the hut, with 3 quick shots connecting with both of his shoulders, and finally, right between his eyes, Dabar falls, but doesn't get back up. Rook turns the engine on as Thrakmul opens the hangar door, and with that they make their way out into the desert on a sand barge as a stunned silence befalls them all. Thank you, Dabar. Without your technical and hut expertise, we wouldn't have made it out of there alive. You'll be missed, Captain. Captain Dabar the Hutt passed away this previous Tuesday evening in a vicious firefight with gangsters. The ceremony will be held next session either on Raxus Prime or in the middle of space, wherever his player prefers. As soon as Dabar was born, he faced many challenges, for he was a giant slug man. Growing up, he had no political aspirations and honestly didn't care for anyone. Then he was employed in a spaceship junkyard, where he found his passion, piloting, building gadgets, building droids, and of course explosives. Dabar stole a ship and took it for a joyride, which resulted in him paying off his debts to the Republic with a group of other outcasts. He hated them at first, and they hated him. But his constant fiddling with gadgets and slithering around won over co-workers and strangers alike. Survived by his crew, Rook, Crow, Thrakmul, Kathu, Grant, R2-G6, his aunt Gardula, and his ship, the Vantablack, preceded in death by 3 gonk droids.